All right, RJ, as we kick off this latest episode of Way Too Early, got a special guest, Afra, here. She's here on the bed next to the desk because she is waiting for me to finish this Gatorade so that she can take off the cap and chew it into oblivion. One of her favorite activities, but as you guys can see, this is probably going to take me a little while, so you might want to go lay down, okay? I know you want it. I know. So get to have some fun with her just staring at me right off camera as we record this one, which should be a fantastic episode. RJ, I'm super pumped about this. Everybody can already see what we're going to be doing on this overlay down below us right now, but made it no secret. RJ, what is my vice?
It's I think, well, one of them really.
Well,
Maybe gambling.
yeah, maybe just a little, particularly when it comes to sports. So I'm really excited to talk this week as we both came up with lists of some over-unders for this upcoming Kraken season that we get to take some shots on. I'm just so pumped for this. I don't know about you.
Oh yeah, no, me too. I'm looking forward to throwing some of these at you. And by the way, we have not shared these with each other yet. We're gonna basically just get our live reactions on the spot. So you'll have to think quickly.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a lot of fun, and just for people who don't know an over under, it's basically you'll find a like a betting agency will set a number of how many times something will happen, and then you have to bet either the over or the under. So they'll choose something like, I got two examples here. How many games will JT Brown be between the glass for on Root Sports broadcasts? Now this one I had a terrible time trying to come up with a number. I just randomly put in 14 and a half because maybe he'll give in and do it at the end of the season, because it sounds like they don't really want to do it at the beginning. I don't know. But maybe a better one would be one that I had a better number for. How many times will pizza be served in the press box? 3.5.
Really?
Yeah.
That low?
Well,
All right.
I can only remember 3 or 4 times it happening for you up there. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know. Those are just samples.
I know which way I'm going.
I know those are just samples for everybody. I got my real list here. Now, we talked a little bit yesterday just about how many we were going to do team based versus, like just a player based stat. So my list came out to be 5 and 5. I don't know about yours.
Mm-hmm. I think it was 6 and 4, and I don't remember which way it went.
Okay. All I was going to say is I think we should start with the team-based ones first and then move into the player-specific ones, because I think those are going to be a lot of fun, and I kind of want to, milk everybody for their ad revenue.
All right. Sounds good.
I was going to say, that's kind of, it seems like, at least sometimes on Discord, what this series has been known for, so we'll just lean into it, I guess. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go first, because I think this is a good one to ask you, all right? Total number of fights the Kraken will be involved in this season. I'm putting the over under at 29.5, and for reference, they got into 26 last year. So I raised it a little bit. I raised it a little bit just because I think that, they're going to be in closer games this year. Tensions will be a little higher. They've got a year now to have built some bad blood with some other teams and other players that can bleed over into this season. So what are you thinking? Over under 29.5 total fights for members of the Kraken.
Okay. I mean, I think you set the number at a good spot because it's really making me think about it. My first thought here is that I feel like being in closer games might actually reduce the number of fights, just because you can't necessarily be going fighting guys. If the game is close, especially now in the NHL, there's a reason you don't see as many fights in these close playoff games. And overtime, you just don't see that. So I'm going to take the under on this one. Also because, guys like Jeremy Lauzon are gone. I just don't know who's going to step up and provide the bulk of those fights if John Hayden, say, is not in the lineup. I think Jamie Alexiak might fight a little bit less, just trying to stay healthy and really be on the right track there. I'm going to take the under.
Okay, all right, I get that. My thought was, the close games, they don't fight while it's close, but they fight once that empty net goal is scored. You know what I mean? because
Right.
that tends to be what happens. And I don't know. I think having full seasons of healthy guys like Alexiak, Schwartz, all that kind of stuff, you could see a decent amount of fights there.
All right.
All right, RJ. So how about your first team based over under?
Okay, so for my first team-based over/under, and I'm going to start with the number first when I announce it too. Just give you a few seconds in your mind of kind of panic if you're okay. What could this be? The number is 2.5,
Okay.
and so 2.5. The number of goalies to start 5 or more games for the Kraken this season.
Mm,
Now, last season it was 2. I'll give you a little information with some of this. Last season it was 2 because Decord had 4 starts,
yeah.
so it was Grubauer and Drieger. But this year, a little bit more to consider.
Yeah. There is. I'm taking the over on that because I just
Okay.
think odds are you're gonna see a goaltender get injured. I don't think let's say Martin Jones gets hurt, just for example. I don't think they're gonna play Grubauer as much. I think they'll lean more on a Joey Decor, or if Drieger's back at that point late in the season or something. So, or even vice versa. Certainly, if Grubauer was to miss any time, they're not just going to be like Martin Jones full workload. Let's go. You know what I mean? I just don't
Right.
think that's gonna happen. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take the over on that one.
All right. Interesting. So an injury would certainly get you there.
Hmm.
But yeah, we'll see what it ends up being.
Yeah. Now I'll go ahead and jump down to one that I had set at 2.5. Okay.
Okay.
And that is total team hat tricks. Last year there was just the one,
Oh,
but I feel like offense is going to be in a little better shape this year, given all the moves they've made, full season of Matty Beniers, all that kind of stuff. So I'm saying 2.5 hat tricks for the members of the Kraken.
you know what? I really have to think about it, but I guess my first reaction is to take the over. I
All
just think
right.
there's going to be a lot more goal scoring, and there are going to be guys capable of having those big games. I think what last season it was just the one from Eberle.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll probably chip in one. I mean, he's such a streaky goal scorer, and then you add guys like Bjorkstrand and Burakovsky who are capable of having those big games, and I think we could definitely see that. So I'm going to take the over.
All right. All right. Let's go.
So the next number is 6.5, and that is reverse retro jersey ranking.
Ah.
So we'll use the athletic rankings just so we have one that we can go back to when we're tallying this all up. But we don't know what the jersey design is going to be like, so it's kind of hard to say. But out of the 32 teams, are they going to rank higher or lower than 6.5?
I mean, that's that's high, right? Like I'm assuming one is like the best. Let's get that out of the way.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I mean we kind of looked at the directions they could go, and based on what they're saying, I don't know, that seems high to me. I'm gonna go, I guess over in this, like it's
Right. The number, yes.
yeah.
Okay. Higher or lower in the
I
rankings?
think
Yeah,
they're
you'll,
gonna
you'll go
be,
lower then.
yeah, yeah. I don't know what, like,
Okay,
what's your
interesting.
thought process behind choosing something that high?
Well, I was thinking, I mean, you look at the Kraken's jerseys so far, and you probably rank the 32 jerseys in the
Yeah.
league, and I think they probably rank about that high if you have someone making the rankings recently. Yeah, we'll see what the design is. It's hard to say, but I think also just being the newest team in the NHL, that's going to help them in the rankings.
Hmm.
And I do trust the design department to come up with something pretty cool.
All right, all right. Hey, I'd be totally fine with it. Don't get me wrong. I just think
Mhm.
that's without having really anything to go off of, I'd play the odds and say, eh,
Yeah. Also, the other thing is I'm trying with these numbers to make it a little harder for you to go optimistic.
yeah, okay, interesting choice. You've been successful at that so far there, I guess. All right, my next one is going to be total shorthanded goals scored by the Kraken this upcoming season, and I'm putting that number at 7.5. Now they had 6 last year. Okay. Obviously, Geo leading the way, tied for team lead with 2. He's not going to be here. I think Blackwell had 1. He's not going to be here. But I think bringing in Matty Beniers, I think he's going to get a lot of PK time this year. Having a full season of Brandon Tanev, I think they're going to probably score more than 6. So my number is set at 7.5. You go in over under on shorthanded goals.
That's a tough one because I think the Kraken are going to have a really good PK. They've got all the players necessary to have a dangerous PK too, as far as scoring shorthanded goals. But I'm going to take the under. And
Okay.
I just think with shorthanded goals, they're hard to predict, right? You just
Hmm.
need everything to kind of come together the right way. And I just don't know that the finishing is going to be there. Like you talk about a guy like Brandon Tanev, he's going to be awesome on the PK. I don't know that the finishing stays as good as that amazing run he had last season. Yeah, I'll take the under there, especially when it comes to shorthanded goals. I kind of always err on that side.
Interesting, because I always think of really what leads to a shorthanded goal. It's speed. Having Matty Beniers out there, having Yanni Gord out there, losing somebody like Riley Shahan, who was really good on the PK, but not really known for his wheels. You know what I mean? Like, I just think Tanev out there, they're going to have more speed. And really, if you get a breakaway shorthanded, it's like a penalty shot. Success rate of that's a lot higher than, anything else. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, play your
Yeah.
20%.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, that was 7.5, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to one where I had 7.5,
Okay.
and that is the highest single game goal total for the Kraken this season.
Ooh.
So their highest last season was 7, that one game against Buffalo where Everly got the hat trick.
Yeah.
That was a team that really struggled to score. Do you think the Kraken will top it this year?
No, I don't. Uh,
Okay.
Touchdown and an extra point is a lot, to begin with. I don't know that we're going to see any 2 point conversions. Like, that's just
8 goals is hard to get to.
it's really hard because things really, like, at a certain point it feels like in the NHL things kind of stall and stop out a little bit. Certainly if only one team's doing all that scoring, if the other team's not keeping pace, it's really hard to get past there. I think the Kraken are certainly going to score a lot more goals this year than they did last year, but I don't think that it's going to be all on, like, funneled into certain nights like that.
Yeah, I mean, you only have 2 games against Buffalo every season, so
Exactly.
hard to do.
Exactly. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to be not optimistic. There you go. You're successful again, RJ. I don't think it's happening. Um,
I thought there was a chance on that one.
I mean, there certainly is. I think that's a really good spot to put the number. I mean, maybe six and a
Mhm.
half would be like where a casino would do it. But yeah, it's an interesting one. All right, building off my shorthanded goals from last year, going over under penalty kill percentage.
Oh boy.
79.5%, which is what it would take to be in the top half of the league. Now, last year, the Kraken's penalty kill operated at a 74.89%, which was not good.
Oof.
I think there's going to be improvements. I already talked earlier about, adding Matty Beniers, that kind of stuff will help. Do you think the Kraken can get their penalty kill to be considered above average, RJ?
I do, and that's kind of the other side of the shorthanded goals. I think maybe they don't have as many shorthanded goals as you'd think pace wise, but I think the penalty kill as a whole is going to improve. I think you've got a lot of players that are going to help out with that. We talked about Brandon Tanev already. Jonas Donskoy really embraced that role kind of in the second half of the season when that's really what he had to focus on. I think you're going to see a lot of that, and also I think having Dave Lowry on the bench
Yep.
is going to help a lot with that. He's not going to be running the PK, but seeing little things like that as kind of this roving coach where you can go and make little in-game adjustments, I think that's going to be really helpful because one thing we saw a lot from the Kraken and why their PK was so bad last season is it gets scored on in bunches. It was often in the same game where they couldn't make those in-game adjustments, and I think that's an area where they're going to get a lot better this year.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we talked about that with bringing Lowry in. It should be a huge change. I too think that they can probably get this penalty kill north of 80-ish%. Do I think they're going to be a league best kill? Probably not. But this is also where the goaltending is going to help out, right? You have historically bad goaltending last year. It's going to hurt your PK numbers just as much as anything the defense is doing. So I just think this is where there's a reason to have optimism. I am bringing optimism, everybody. With
All right.
with that one.
So for my next one, I guess there's not really optimism or pessimism, Dylan. I'll start with the number, let you think about it for a second.
Okay.
5.5 inches. Over or under.
Okay.
All right, first of all, what do you think this might be?
I mean, are we expecting Shane Wright to have a growth spurt or something?
Well, yeah, I'd say take the under on that one if that's the case.
Yeah.
Okay, so 5.5 inches, greatest height differential of any fight involving a Kraken player this season. So
Ooh.
last season, I believe it was 6 inches. The 6'7" Jamie Alexiak
Mhm.
versus 6'1" Nick Delorier.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big height difference there. I don't know if they can replicate it, so I'm gonna put the over under at 5.5.
I don't know. I think anytime you got 6'7" Jamie Alexiak involved, I feel like 5.5. Like, I feel like you can see that again with somebody who's 6 foot 6'1", and then it's also like, let's be real. If we go by their real heights, it's definitely over that.
Mhm.
um, no, I'm gonna take the over on that. I think you could see him
Okay.
fight somebody 6'1" or something again. Or let's also put it, maybe Carson Kuhlman gets into a scrap with somebody who's like 6'3" or something.
Yep. Yanni Gord is the other one that I'm thinking of. I mean, there's
Yeah,
potential there for him
yeah.
to fight someone bigger. Okay.
But
So
some
I
sort
think
of
that's pretty smart.
some sort of kind of line brawl type thing goes out, and it's just you happen to be paired with who you're paired with.
All right. So Dylan expecting another big height mismatch on a fight.
Yep. All right, this is my last team-based one, okay, RJ? And
Okay.
this is where I've got some optimism. This one is also 5.5. Funny how we've kind of done this, okay?
Right.
And that is shutouts for the Kraken. Like, how many shutouts do we think the Kraken can get this season? Goaltenders, they had 3 last year. I'm putting the number at
Okay.
5.5. I think the goaltending is going to be a lot better. I think the team overall is going to be a lot better, more cohesive. I think that's more in line with the league average too. So that helps a
Yep.
little.
Okay. So if they had 3 last year, 5.5 seems a lot more doable. There's 82 games.
Hmm.
You gotta figure maybe 6 are out there somewhere. I'm gonna take the over there. I really do expect a bounce back from the Kraken's goaltending this season. I think you might see, at least, maybe 5 Grubauer contributes, and hopefully one of the other guys gets one. So I'll take the over there and be optimistic.
Yeah, no, I think it's good that we're optimistic about that. It shows how successful their offseason has been. You know what I mean? If some of the stuff, I mean, even with some of these, if they sign Burakovsky, but you don't get the Bjorkstrand as well, I'm maybe not as optimistic. But just because of how A plus Ronnie Francis has done everything this offseason, it's made me optimistic about everything, including goaltending apparently.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to some more goaltending a little bit later. We'll see how optimistic you are there.
Hmm.
Um, but next, I've got 33 and a half.
All right.
And that's how many different players play in a game for the Kraken this season. Now, it's skaters and goalies.
Yeah.
I will tell you, last season it was 38, but you had COVID, you had all these waiver stuff, expansion, general craziness. I'm going 33 and a half. What do you think?
I'm gonna take the under. I think because the
Okay.
roster is more settled and everything, I don't think you're going to have to deal with COVID as much. I think even the goaltending situation's kind of, a little less, freaky than last year. So I'm gonna take the under on that one. I think you could get up to 28, 29 easily. I think most teams do
Mhm.
over the course of a year, but I don't think you're going to see the Kraken as active on waivers on both ends as we saw them last year. Especially having a full AHL team all to yourself helps out. The fact that you've had another offseason to sign guys for that and just kind of fill out your overall system and organization a little bit. I think that's all going to contribute to them having kind of options in house, and they're not going to have just this glutton of NHL caliber players that they kind of got to shift out like Barry Boulet or Bastion or stuff like that.
Right. And I could see good arguments on both sides there. I think it contributed in that way, but also having your own AHL team that's yours and it's closer might mean to kind of more shuffles and call ups and call that, all that. So that can lead to more players coming in. I don't know realistically how many could get in the lineup, but I did look at some other teams. I just, looked at California teams or whatever over the
Yeah.
last few pre-COVID years, and it was around that 30 to 33
Hmm.
range. So it should be close with that. Even guys you don't think of too.
Yeah. No, for sure. I'm gonna be optimistic. Everybody stays healthy for the most part, and everybody's playing
That's
well.
true. Health plays a big role in that. That's for
Right,
sure.
and having a settled roster, because even those California teams over those last couple of years have kind of been like, it's a little a little all over the place as far as young players and, not necessarily having stars. This team now kind of has a more definitive top six. You're not going to be seeing guys shuffle all around through everything as much. So I'll try to be optimistic on that one. All right, so going to be moving into the player specific ones now, RJ.
Okay.
All right. And I'm going to do the first one I thought of just because this is something we've talked about. We talked about it during our first Way Too Early video. And that was Vince Dunn fighting. Okay. Now
Okay.
he had 3 fights last year. Both of us said we don't think he was going to fight that much again. So I'm putting Vince Dunn fights at 1.5.
Ooh. Okay. That's not very many. Like, it doesn't take much to get 2 fights over an 82 game season.
But he only had 3
I'm gonna
last year.
take the under though.
All right.
I'm gonna take the under though. I'm going with pacifist Vince Dunn this season. I think he's gonna be focusing on really driving offense and playing that number one power play quarterback role. He's gonna be getting so many points. He's not gonna have time or worries about fighting. That's what I'm going with.
That was kind of my thought behind it too, is that it's going to be less. He's in a different role now. He understands what role he's in and what value and importance he has to the team. So I think when any sort of shenanigans get going down, his defensive partner Adam Larson's going to come over and handle that stuff instead.
Yep, I could see that.
Yeah.
All right. So next one now, I had 6 team ones turns out and 4 player ones.
Right.
So I'll go with my last team one. And that is 16 and a half.
Okay.
Jersey number of the Kraken's leading goal scorer this season.
Oh. Okay. Let me quick pull up a roster.
Takes a couple takes a couple steps there to really get a gauge on this one. The way I looked at it, and I'll talk for a little bit while you're looking this up
Well,
here.
you thought about it
There are
was
6 players. There are 6 players I think that kind of have a shot at this, and I put the number right in the middle of those 6, so it kind of splits off into 3 and 3. We'll see if you view it differently.
Yeah, because your 3 under would be McCann at 16, Beniers at 10, and Everly at 7. Unless you think Adam Larson's just gonna go off this year.
I didn't take that into account, but I should have, knowing you.
Yeah, and then basically, I don't know. This is one where I'm tempted to take the field because you're talking about certainly forward wise, really only like 4 forwards underneath that number. And then you get a lot more the other way. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take the field and say that, someone else can get in there and get it done. Even though we both picked McCann to lead the team in goals, and I still think that that's the most likely. I just like my chances kind of having all those other options. Protects against like an injury or something.
Exactly. This one's not as straightforward. You've got, together maybe Bjorkstrand, Gord, Burakovsky. You've got a lot of options there. But I was really interested to see which way you would go with that one.
Yeah. No, that's a really good one, and I think that's gonna get one that's gonna get lots of people talking in chat and on Discord and stuff. Which
for sure. And for all of these, like, let us know what you think.
Please.
Because this is a game you can play along with too. We can go back, check our answers once all this stuff is known after next season, and you can go back and check your answers. Put them in a comment below, so it's there, it's on the internet, it's forever. And when you're right, you can tell us about it.
Right, or just start a spreadsheet and then claim you were right later.
Yeah, that's a foolproof method. With my love of Excel, I've done that in the past.
Yes, exactly. Wow, I really like that one. That one was a lot of fun. All right, let's see here. Which one of these should I go with? Well, because I'll stick with goal scoring kind of, and with somebody I just mentioned. All right, and that is going to be Jared McCann's shooting percentage.
Oh boy.
All right. Now I'm
shooting percentage one, of course.
Yes, right. So I'm putting it at 12.75%. I just had to throw in that second, thing after the decimal point to help make it. So I'm gonna put it at 12.75. Last year with the Kraken, it was 13.6, and then in his seasons with Pittsburgh, it was 12.4 average, but that broke down to a 15.3, 9.3, and 15.1. I just think he's going to be more of a volume shooter this year than he was last year. Last year he was just shy of 200 shots. That season in Pittsburgh where he had 9.3 shooting percentage, his shot total was like exceptionally high. I just think the volume's going to lower his percentage from that 13.6 number last year to a more modest 12.75, which is still like a really good shooting percentage.
Right. Now you've placed your number in a good spot here because if you look at McCann since joining the Penguins and since really being the player that we kind of know him to be now,
Mm-hmm.
he's been a very high percentage shooter over the course of his career. 12.75 for just about anyone else. You kind of take the under and feel pretty comfortable with that, knowing the numbers are in your favor. But here, I think you set it at a really good spot. I agree with your point about the volume shooting. I think that's going to bump it down from what it was last season, but I do I do think he's going to really take advantage of those opportunities. We both talked about it in the stat leader things. We both think that McCann's going to lead the team in goal scoring. I'm going to take the under just because on a shooting percentage stat, I'm always tempted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've convinced me on the volume shooting aspect. I think he's going to be in position to take a lot of shots, and when you do that, your shooting percentage just kind of naturally goes down. And unless you're an Ovechkin type, and they're all from that one spot where you could score forever. So I'm going to take the under, but man, is it close.
Yeah, and my thought was, I think the shot totals are going to go up with him playing on the wing this year more. You know what I mean? And being locked into a more, because he's going to be shifted to the wing, being locked into more of a top six role. He's just going to have more opportunities to get shots. Remember, there was totally times last year he was playing third line minutes. You know what I mean? And I don't see that happening again this year. And I think they're going to be a little bit smarter on the power play and get him the darn puck. Because I don't know why that was such an issue for them last year on the power play, but we all saw the results of it. So yeah, I just think the volume's going to bring it down, like we talked about, and I think that's going to be because he's going to be locked into a top six winger role, where that's all he's going to have to worry about.
And really, I think it's just going to be 12.75 exactly, so that I couldn't possibly win.
Well, they rounded up, so it'll have
okay.
It might be 12.7 or 12.8. So that's why I had to add in the 5 there on the end just to make the over under work.
All right. Well, we could do the math with the shots versus goals.
Yeah.
We'll see what it comes out to exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So getting into my player based over unders, I am begging you to be optimistic here, Dylan.
All right.
This one, 0.5 Martin Jones shutouts this season. I will add that he did not have a shutout last season. Started 33 games. The Flyers defense, so take that into account.
So what you're saying is he's due.
Sure. That's
well. Look,
let's go with that.
I've been more optimistic about Martin Jones this entire time than you have. So I have to legally, I think, say take the over. But I'm going to go ahead and say no. Last year was the first time in his entire career he didn't have a shutout for a season. So I'm going to for sure take the over. I think that was a fluke. That's just what playing for the Flyers will do for you. And I think at some point this year, I mean, we talked about it earlier. I set the over-under for total team shutouts at 5.5. I don't think Grubauer's getting all those just by himself. Jones is in line to get the biggest workload. I think they're going to give him a good 30-ish games, 30 to 35 games to work with. I think he can get a shutout or two in there.
All right. I like the optimism there. I set you up for that one. So good. I'm glad that you went over, and I would love to see it. Yes.
You know why it's going to work? Because we all know the problem with Martin Jones. He's really good down low. It's up high he struggles. Well, he's got tall defensemen in front of him now. You know what I mean? Carson Soucy, Jamie Alexiak, Adam Larson, they're just going to put their big frames, and they're going to cover the top of the net for him. He doesn't have to worry about it.
Innovative. I like that idea.
Yep. I'm all about that ingenuity. All right, let's see. What should we go with next? You know what? Let's get my last percentage-based one out of the way. All
okay.
Right. And that is going to be Matty Beniers' 5-on-5 offensive zone starting percentage.
Okay.
All right. I'm putting the over-under at 60.05 because they also rounded up to only the one spot, the 10th spot after the decimal. So 60.05% 5-on-5 offensive zone starting percentage. It was 63.1 last year. But I think the fact that he's going to be working on, they're gonna have him be the number one center. He's gonna have to start in his own zone every so often. It's still very high. That would still lead the Kraken amongst like forwards with regular playing time if he started 60% of the time. So, what are you thinking?
Okay, I like this one because it's an interesting question. Just how sheltered is Matty Beniers going to be with that? I can think of it both ways because
Mm-hmm.
you'd want to have him sheltered as really as a rookie coming into the league. He's only played 10 games. You want to help him out with that. That's what they did in those first 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if anyone is kind of built and equipped to deal with more defensive zone starts, a more complete role, it's Matty Beniers. And also as your 1C, you're not going to be able to get every favorable matchup that you want. Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I
You
think
got to give me a second to think
I
about
was
it.
gonna say I think this could all depend on if Shane Wright makes the team or not. Because if Shane Wright's centering your third line, you can't throw your third line out there in the defensive zone all the time. So Maddie would kind of take over those spots. If Shane Wright's not there, it's possible that things change then because you're in a better spot to then shelter Maddie. So it is a tough one. It also, you
Yeah.
got to think about like how often do we think they're going to be backed up into their own zone starting again? Like last year it was a lot, but this year we think they're going to have a little bit more offense that should lead to just more offensive zone starts to begin with. So that could sway things. It's a lot.
Mhm. There's so many factors here. And I was thinking about the other centers too, because you are potentially deep down the middle, but Wright is someone who will probably need to be sheltered.
Mm-hmm.
Wenberg, you could ask him to take a very defensive role. I mean, that would be one of the keys to helping Matty out. I think if you do a mid-season split here too,
Yeah.
it's going to be at the start of the season way over, and I think in the second half of the season probably going to be way under that.
Mm-hmm.
And just when does that transition happen? Because I think you're going to see a noticeable transition. That's something to look for too
Yeah.
in the middle of the season as we evaluate everyone's play. I think you're going to start to see that. But overall, I guess I'm going to take the under.
Okay.
I think Shane Wright probably will stick. I think the organization's really hoping that he does, and that he's going to kind of get the priority there, and they're going to give Matty some really tough ice time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were trying to ease him into it in those first 10 games last season, but at a certain point, you've got to let him just drive the bus one way or the other and really see what you have.
Yeah. I've been saying it all along. I think Maddie's ready. I think he's a superstar. We're gonna see it this year. So yeah, I'm okay with taking the under there. Although, like I said, maybe having him around will just lead to more offensive zone starts to begin with, and that'll help keep the percentage up. Who knows?
Yep. All right. So I'm going to go with a Matty Beniers one now.
All right.
And it's not a number, it's a date.
Oh.
October 22nd.
Okay.
So over under, basically before or after.
Yeah.
Matty Beniers' first multi-point game. Now he had 9 points in 10 games last season, as we both know, but never more than one in any single game. Now it will happen this season. I think we both agree on that.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Question is when. And so now I'm asking you, does it happen before or after October 22nd?
All right.
So I'll give you a second to pull the schedule
yeah,
up.
that's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm just trying to get this schedule up so I can see. So
And I'll let you know because you'll see it. There's 6 games, 6 regular season games before that point.
yeah. Now some of those games are against some tough teams,
That's why I put it there.
but then there's also some games like opening night against Anaheim. Where it's like, well, this could just happen game one. I could see this Anaheim opening game being like a 7-6 game, just because
Oh, totally.
both teams are just built that way right now. um, and you put it looks like, because I'm looking at a very blurred picture, is that right before the Chicago game?
Yes, that's right before the Chicago game.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
So they don't have a game on the 22nd itself.
I don't
It's
know.
21st and 23rd.
Yeah, see, you get it's 3 home, 3 road games, so you get the matchups half of the time, but you're playing teams like LA, Carolina, St. Louis, Colorado. These are not teams that are going to be easy to score against. Vegas is a total crapshoot too, so it's really just that Anaheim game. I don't know. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to stick with my guns. Matty Beniers, superstar. He's going to have like 70-ish points this year, so I'm going to say it's going to happen before that.
Okay. Yeah, I like the optimism again. I thought I set that at a pretty fair point.
It is. It is very fair.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So that's a very good one. All right. So my last one I'm going to save because I just think it's the most fun, and everybody's gonna have a good
Okay,
time with
I
it.
think I've saved my best for last
All
too.
right.
So
So this is gonna be the only one, and this one, it's we've been trying to stay optimistic, all that stuff, but we're gonna have to talk about something that can be a little bit of a downer here, RJ. All right,
right.
and that is Jaden Schwartz games played. Okay, and I have the over under at 57 and a half games. He played 39 last year. His career high is 71. All right.
Okay.
So, 57 and a half. How healthy do you think Jaden Schwartz can stay this year? Obviously, not a guy known for being, super healthy for long stretches of
Right.
time. Unfortunately, that's why this question has to be asked.
Okay, so I'll start with just the fact. Okay, you went there because I thought about it.
I know.
I did think about doing this one, but I decided to go in a different direction. What was it, 57 and a half?
57 and a half. And I might have made that a little higher than I initially had it. I think I initially had it at 54 and a half, but I was like, ugh, I want him to be healthy, so I'll bump it up.
Okay. Well, with these, I'm trying not to let, any wishful thinking necessarily get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take the under, and I'm gonna hope he proves me wrong because Jaden Schwartz, he needs a healthy season, and he deserves a healthy season. After all that he's been through and how hard he works, I'd love to see him get that full 82, and be thrilled with that. But I'm at a point where I can't believe it until I see it.
Oh yeah, and excuse me, his career high is actually 80 way back when. It's the thing that was throwing me was the 71 is bolded for the season in which the league high was 71, so it just stood out as 71 to me.
Okay.
So he has played basically a full season before at 80 there.
What year was that? The 80.
2013, 2014.
Okay.
But his only full season was in 2019, 2020 with that 71. So
Okay.
it's it's in there, but there's just a lot of seasons of less than that, unfortunately.
Yep. Well, let's hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we're both wrong, and I hope that it is going to be long. But yeah, so that's the one downer I've got.
Okay. So my next one, and I had to include this one for you. I had to include an Adam Larson one.
Yep.
22 minutes. Over under 22 minutes. Well, let's go 22 minutes and half a second.
Yeah.
And that is Adam Larson average ice time. So last season he averaged 22 minutes and 17 seconds.
Yeah.
Leaned on him really heavily.
Yep.
Will they have to do it again? What are you thinking?
I don't see why they won't. You bring in Schultz as your only defensive addition to the team. I don't think he's going to be, bumping Adam Larson off for, first PK pairing minutes or anything like that. It wasn't like Adam Larson got a lot of power play time last year to pad that number, so I don't think that's really going to happen. The team wasn't super aggressive in taking penalties last year, so I think the power play, the PK time is going to stay pretty even. So yeah, I think if, they decide to keep him paired with Vince Dunn as that top pairing, there is no reason why he's not going to exceed 22 minutes again. Especially when the power play 2 spot is kind of open for grabs too a little bit.
Oh, I think Schultz should have that one locked down, but you never know what could happen with injuries and whatnot. Yeah, I guess the only way I was thinking about it was just if they lead more games, they're not having to play defensively as much. Maybe you go with a different pair, like whatever the Schultz pair ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I could definitely see a lot of scenarios where they lean on Adam Larson as much as last season, if not more.
Yeah, and it's also just the whole, right defenseman thing. Like, who are they going to bump for their top pairing? Like, who would take him, overtake his spot? You know what I mean? Like, for 5-on-5 top pairing. I don't know who. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Adam Larson. And defending a game, you just stick out Alexiak and Larson together, pad a lead.
Yep, they'll play. That's a good pair.
They'll do a minute and a half, minute 45 shift together or something like that.
Looking back at it, I should have picked like 25 minutes or something. Just force you to take the under. I don't know what I was doing there, making it reasonable on an Adam Larson one.
Hey, I mean he was only at 22-17 last year. Like that's close. Like I think it's close. I think it would have been really hard if you had done like 22-15 and a half.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 15 seconds. That does make a difference.
Yeah. All right. So for my last one, RJ went with a fun one here. All right. Brandon Tanev. The number's gonna be 1.5, and Brandon Tanev's involved. Would you care to guess what it is?
Let's see. Well, it shouldn't be, ghost eyes because
Yes.
we know there should be two.
Yes.
Um, 1.5, Brandon Tanev. Is it inches of hair length added over the course of the season?
Kind of. It's gonna be
Okay.
noticeable times in which Brandon Tanev has had a haircut. 1.5.
Okay. Oh man. Okay. Well, he got it cut a little shorter
Yeah.
heading into this off season, right? That's
Right.
something we noticed. So I'm gonna take the under because I think he's gonna grow it out as the season goes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe get one haircut,
Mm-hmm.
but then at that point it'll be kind of set up for the rest of the season run and maybe playoffs or beyond because if they make the playoffs once that starts, that hair's not getting cut.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take the under there.
Okay.
I guess that's being optimistic,
Yeah.
because I think we'd like to see the flow come out
Yeah.
there. All right, yeah, I'll take the under there.
All right. This is the one I'm really interested to hear everybody's thoughts on. Because, yeah, I mean,
Yes.
we do know that he does cut his hair. There was like one time over the course of last season where it seemed noticeable that his hair got shorter. So that's why, unless you're going to ask him every day that you have media availability, or maybe we'll just like DM him on like Instagram or something like, hey, man, whenever you get a haircut, just let us know. Uh, our, our community's got
Yeah.
like a group pool on this.
He'd like that.
He would. Why wouldn't he? So yeah, I just thought, he might want to trim it up like right after training camp, right before the season starts again, which I think would count as one, and then somewhere midpoint of the season get another one. That was my thinking behind
Okay.
making it 1.5, but really interested to hear everybody's thoughts on that one.
Yep. No, that should be a fun one.
And
All right.
tracking it over the course of the year, that's also gonna be fun.
Exactly. We'll have to get some confirmations there. All right. So I think I saved my best for last. You ready for this one, Dylan?
Oh yeah.
Over or under 15 and a half Cole Lind goalie kisses.
Oh man. So it's
Now, this is a
basically,
tough one.
yeah,
There's two parts, right?
right.
You got to do number of games Cole Lind plays and how many of those are wins. Now, I can give you the numbers from last season because I figured that'd probably be hard to pull up really quickly.
Yeah.
But Cole Lind played 23 games last season.
Mm-hmm.
10 of those were wins.
Mm-hmm.
So rough math, you say maybe assume he plays 30 games, half those are wins, you get to 15. That's kind of how I arrived at that number. But what do you think?
Wow, this is difficult because I'm trying to think of like in my head what these lines are going to be because I'd love to see Collins play basically a full season if possible.
I can tell you he is listed as a scratch right now on our projected Kraken lineup
Yeah,
on the website.
and you know what? I'm going to take the under, and I'm going to do that because I don't think Collins going to finish this season as a Kraken.
Really?
Yeah,
Waivers?
yeah. I think he's going to be a waiver casualty at some point or a throw in on a trade.
Well, you know what? Actually, I didn't specify goal in goalie kisses with a
For the
Kraken
Kraken, that's
goalie, but I
true.
should have. I should have. That's. I'll amend that and say with a Kraken goalie because that's what we're really going after. But yeah, if you wanted to get me on that one on
Yeah.
the fine print, if you were taking the over, but that would be a little harder to track, I think.
Yeah, because I think the team overall is going to be really close to 500. I think that's roughly where they're going to be, which in the NHL these days will get you kind of close to a wild card spot. Um, shockingly close. So if I think he plays any less than 30, I can't say yes, right? Just
Right.
because of math. So yeah, I'm gonna unfortunately take the under and end this on a downer. What'd you do,
Okay.
RJ? Your plan
Yeah,
was
I wanna say-
your plan was too successful.
This is not one of the ones I planned for you to be pessimistic about. I promise.
It's either that or Colin passes Carson Kuhlman on the depth chart and he plays like 70 something games, and this number is way over 15 and a half.
So I could see that too, because there's a path. If he plays near
Yeah.
a full season, it's going to be way over.
Right.
So that's kind of why I put it where I did.
Or if he
But,
hangs
y-
if he hangs with the Oregon, Donskoy gets moved at some point. I mean,
Yep.
that could be in. So there's options there.
Yep. So
I know.
there's room for optimism.
I know.
I did not want to end it on this. I should have set it lower. I should have set it, half a goalie kiss
Yes.
and just give you the layup. But I thought this was an interesting one.
I give you Brandon Tanev haircuts. You give me can Cole
Poland
play
goalie
games?
kisses. It doesn't sound that bad, does it?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. All right. So as we said earlier, love to hear everybody's thoughts on this one. And hey, feel free to leave a comment on this YouTube video, shoot us, a DM or tweet at us or something like that. Let us know your over-unders too. Like, come up with some questions. I'd love to answer some of those in the comment section or on Twitter. I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, it's been another episode of Way Too Early. It's trying to guess this stuff out. It's going to be really fun. Like, I wasn't originally on board with this whole, like, let's try to make this a competition, RJ, and, like, see at the end of the year who's gotten more right or whatever. Because originally we were thinking concepts that maybe not, as judgeable. And then we ended up picking, like, everybody the same for the stat leader. So it was just like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But this one in particular, I feel like could be a lot of fun to go back.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We will do that for sure. Because we need some more competition there. We agreed on all the stat leaders.
Yeah.
We will have a winner here.
Yeah, for sure. And, it'll be one of those, like, I'll give you a nice firm handshake if you win. If I win, you can give me like $20 or something.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, sounds good, right? We're putting money on this. If I win, that's the agreement.
Yeah, this is what it's like being friends with Dylan, let me tell you. I mean, you're seeing the real inside scoop here.
Gambling is my vice. I can't get too, aggressive into it or anything, right? Like, it could become a problem for me. So I I have to wait until I know I've already won.
You're welcome.
Yes. All right, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us through this Way Too Early. I hope you had a lot of fun, and we'll see you all next time.